Thank you. I don't know if you got that. Thank you very much for the chance to chat with the board today. As staff, we've had a really outgoing Stewardship Services year. In spite of COVID, we've spent almost the whole summer and fall at construction. So we're really pleased to have a chance to share with you some of the work that we've completed this year, and also provide just a general background overview on the Stewardship Services program. Next slide, please. Oh, Nick, thank you. Stewardship Services program, our broad goal starts out environmental in that we're looking to complete strategic water quality improvement, river restoration, and habitat enhancement projects. But because we work closely with our watershed residents and municipalities, we're always trying to find ways to integrate opportunities to improve the watershed in terms of recreation, economic returns, and also providing flood control benefits to local communities. Next slide, please. So Stewardship Services program, our goals are achieved very much through working with a wide variety of other partners, everything from schools and students and local community volunteers right up through the federal levels of government. We partner with anyone who is aligned with our agenda for environmental enhancement, and particularly if they have funding. So we're starting out with fairly moderate amount of resources. Before I forget, I'll mention that typically for every dollar that we receive for base funding through municipal levy, our upshot is usually we're bringing in about $4 to $6 of external or partner revenue to increase the value of the overall program and projects that are delivered. Next slide, please. So there are two components of the Stewardship Services program, and I'll chat about them as if they're two separate entities, but in fact, our grant incentive program and our river restoration program collaborate very closely. We aren't in silos. It's almost just easier to describe two separate parts of the stewardship program. So the first is our Healthy Waters Grant Incentive Program, where we offer and advertise grants to landowners throughout the watershed and all our municipalities, and also promote the grant structure and the priorities that we have. And this program is run by Shannon Stevens, our Healthy Waters Grant Incentive Coordinator. And then the second part that's different, although we tend to work well together, is our river restoration program that I coordinate. And then we're very fortunate to have an aquatic biologist position as well. Sarah Campbell provides support to both of these sub-programs and also coordinates other special programs like invasive species management, like controlling common reed, or also called Phragmites, along the southern Georgian Bay shoreline. Next slide, please. So how do we select projects? That's sort of a key theme of this presentation. So for the grants that we offer, whenever a landowner responds, we'll meet with them, and if they decide to go ahead and submit an application, the applications are approved first come, first serve for project selection. As long as the applications meet our criteria, which are designed to ensure that whatever project is completed is a good bang for the buck and provides benefits to the whole watershed and aligns up with our goals for water quality improvement. So it's pretty simple. For grants, first come, first serve. Next slide, please. Not so simple is how we pick our larger sort of construction-based, more expensive river restoration programs. So these projects are selected based on hard science in terms of what are the real needs of our watershed and our water courses. So the projects represent a big commitment of staff time and money. So we want to make sure that anything we take on has a maximum benefit for water quality and habitat. We also want to see, again, working on behalf of our watershed residents, we want to see the broadest range of collateral benefits as well for everything from flood control to safety to minimizing property damage to optimizing human health. We also want these big projects to align with our strategic plans, like the 2009 Fisheries Habitat Management Plan, of which we're one of only 3 or 4 authorities that have one. Also the 2006 Accumulative Capacity Study. We want the improvements ideally to benefit more than one municipality, and I'll show you some projects that do that. And after all these criteria are met, we still have to make sure that the high priority site that the landowner is willing to work with us projects have to be cost effective, and there also has to be money available. To give you an example, we're tapping into funding from the federal government to improve habitat for species at risk, but not our whole watershed has species at risk. So that limits some sources of funding to specific geographies within the watershed. Next slide, please. So I wanted to talk about the grant incentive program, which Shannon manages first. And the goals or the benefits of this program are very, very wide, ranging from flood attenuation. The photo in the background shows the June 23rd, 2017 flooding, in this case on Beaton Creek at a site just between Simcoe Road 1 and the 9th line, or Lily Street. These projects address water quality as a high priority, soil erosion, improve the safety of drinking water, improve habitat for fish and wildlife, and also a lot of them have a focus on nutrient control. Nutrients in the farm sector use huge volumes of fertilizers to improve crop production, but only a very small amount of that fertilizer can create very significant impacts in the aquatic environment in terms of algae growth. Expanding urban areas are also contributing a lot of nutrients as well, so nutrient control is a key theme. Next slide, please. Okay, so we work a lot with a wide range of landowners in both the urban and rural areas, but I thought I'd show rural as a focus because of the large area of our watershed, which is covered by agricultural land use practices. So we offer grants for manure runoff reduction, nutrient management, well decommissioning. Old wells are a line of least resistance where contaminated surface water can get down into our drinking water aquifers and contaminate it. We provide funding support for conservation tillage practices designed to keep the topsoil on the land, funding for erosion control structures, cover crops in Dufferin. And we also have, it says till drain, but it actually should say tile drain outlet control retrofits designed to keep nutrients on the land and keep them out of our water courses. Next slide, please. With Shannon's program, with the grant incentive program, she also offers grants to community groups and works a lot with schools on habitat restoration projects. So no surprise, COVID year was certainly 2020 was a year like no other. We had a slow start due to restrictions in the spring, where normally we'd have about 3,000 volunteers and students helping us with these projects. I don't have the final figures, but we were able to resume volunteer involvement in the summer and fall with the safety measures in place, as you can see on the photo to the right. Next slide, please. And then some overall achievements through the grant incentive program with habitat management. 50 hectares of native grassland were restored. These are large-scale seeding programs. We're also able to create and protect an additional 4 hectares of wetland habitat in the watershed, and also restore buffers or healthy vegetated areas that may separate, for example, urban land uses or tilled fields from water courses. So we're able to establish these buffers along 4.1 kilometers of river within the watershed. Next slide, please. So that's a quick overview of grant incentive. I want to provide you with 2 case studies of large-scale river restoration programs completed this year, projects. And I have to apologize to Dawn and Jeb. She's been great to come out to our Beaton ice control site where we created a spillway that's designed to support a 0.5 hectare wetland. And just because of interest in time and space, I didn't have time to do that new Tecumseh project as one of the case studies. So I'll apologize to Dawn in advance. First project, which was our largest of the year, was removing the Petun Dam on Black Ash Creek. This site is southwest of Collingwood in the town of the Blue Mountains. And this old, abandoned, and failed dam was located within our Petun conservation area, NVCA's conservation land. Black Ash Creek is the largest tributary of Collingwood Harbor, and it's not only a source of high-quality water coming out of the escarpment, but it also provides a good trout stream habitat supporting rainbow trout and a fishery in Georgian Bay, an economically significant fishery, and also ecologically, the stream still supports a small remnant population of wild native brook trout. Next slide, please. So a little bit of background. If you look at the lower left-hand photo in the presentation, you can actually see what Black Ash Creek should look like in the foreground. It's a small, tumbling, fast-flowing, dynamic stream flowing down the steep escarpment slopes. And in the background of the left-hand photo, you can see a big blob of earth that's going across the valley. There's even a pipe that's coming out of the berm. That berm, it doesn't look like a structural dam because it has trees growing out of it, but because it was constructed in the 60s, some of the trees growing on this old dam are now 60 years old. So it doesn't look like a dam, but it's actually an old earthen structure that filled in the entire escarpment valley. Middle slide, you can see NVCA staff doing a site survey, collecting elevation data that was used for developing the dam removal and stream habitat restoration strategy, working with GSS engineering. And you can see the type of algae growth, the big blobs of gunk on the surface of the pond are algae growing in response to the sediment and the phosphorus that accumulates in these old head ponds over time. So there's a very significant water quality impairment having the dam left in place and the large stagnant head pond. And the last feature is that the pond also supports heating. So if you looked at the right-hand photo, the water coming into this stagnant pond is in blue. It's the lower plot that shows much colder water, and the water leaving the pond is the upper line, the upper squiggly line in the lighter green color. The squiggle is because stream temperatures go up in the day and go down at night. But you can see that on average, there's about 4.5 degrees C of warming, or the daily peaks go up by 7 degrees C because of this dam and this pond. So removing the dam has a chance to take a degraded brook trout stream and turn it into a high quality brook trout stream. Next slide, please. So what did we do for the dam removal? Well, step one, lower left-hand corner, it took us almost 2 or 3 weeks of hand labor to establish a flow bypass, a 10-inch Big O, like an agricultural farm pipe that would carry all the flow of Black Ash Creek around the site so that we could work in the dry and ensure that the high-quality clean water was going around the site without getting sediment in it or being contaminated. So this took us a long while to construct. We had to build a coffer dam as well to divert the flow into this pipe, largely by hand using gravel in a slinger truck and big nylon bags to create a dam. Once this was established and all the flow was going around the site, we started step two, which was actually bringing on board rumball excavation and starting the bulk earth moving, or the removal of the earthen dam. And we also had to remove 700 meters cubed of black organic sediment that had settled in the bottom of the pond. If you look behind the excavator arm where it says CAD excavator on the right-hand side, you can see the black bypass pipe with the yellow nylon strapping. It had to be anchored on 16-inch centers, and it ended up being a 500-foot long bypass that we installed. Next slide, please. And of course, once the bulk of the earthen dam is removed, we still have to rebuild an actual stream channel. So once the bulk of the earth was gone, the excavator left himself a high dry pad that he could work on, and he began cutting the final channel down to the final elevation, overcutting it, putting rock back in to create a rocky stream bed back to the final target elevation. And our operator is very good. We worked with him for 2 decades. So he was starting to add red osier dogwood clumps, which you can see on either side of the rock. So actually building a channel that almost looked like a real stream almost as soon as we constructed it. We didn't really have to wait for seed to grow or new vegetation to become established on the site. Next slide, please. So some before and afters, and the circled features are just reference points that you can see in both slides to convince you that you're actually looking at the same site. So the red circle is the dam outlet pipe from the original dam structure, and the blue circle is just a distinctive base of a tree that shows up in both slides. So on the left, there's a bit of a creek, and then there's a great big blob of earth going across the valley with a narrow rip in it where the stream eroded a channel. And then on the right-hand side, the after shot, you can see where we actually excavated all the fill that was placed in to recreate the whole Niagara Escarpment Valley complex. This was very important because we're not only addressing water quality and fish habitat, but we're removed a large volume of water stored in the head pond that if the dam ever failed, would have released 2,000 meters cubed of water down that escarpment valley at a high pace, creating erosion and property damage. So that risk is now totally addressed. Next slide, please. And I don't have the before shot, but this just gives you an overview of the recreated Niagara Escarpment Valley that we dug out by removing all the earth and berm. The green part is growth of annual oats that we use as a quick cover crop. And amongst the green sidewall in the valley on the right, you can see the new trees and vegetation that the excavator operator has actually planted. Because we couldn't use volunteers, we relied heavily on an expert machine operator to add a lot of the natural vegetation to the site. In the bottom of the valley, you can also see the reconstructed stream channel with pools and rock steps designed to dissipate energy and provide high quality fish habitat. Next slide, please. And then funding. So this was about a $170,000 project. I was asked on a site visit we did how much levy was involved here. And I think other than basically general levy for things like our support for like purchasing, essentially there was zero levy that went into this project. The real hero for funding was Bruce Power, the nuclear power plant north of Kincardine. They funded us to do the monitoring and design work starting in 2017. And we carried over $40,000 of their funding over to 2020 to support the work. Sorry, I hit the wrong button. Through the Greenbelt Foundation, they gave us $60K, which was just enough to make this project a go this year. And then a whole host of other funders like H.J. Macdonald Foundation, Province of Ontario, Environment Canada, Enbridge, et cetera, allowed us to cover the $170,000 cost. And we're still working on the partnership sign. So thank you. That was case study number one. I have one more case study just to wrap up with. Next slide, please. So another large-scale river restoration project we're doing is Nottawasaga River Restoration Program. This is a multi-initiative whose goal is to take the high-quality water supply and fish habitat provided by our upper Nottawasaga in the Healthy Niagara Escarpment Zone and do projects in a strategic sequence to extend that high-quality water downstream into the agriculturalized Simcoe lowlands towards Alliston, where a variety of urban and particularly agricultural impacts have degraded water quality and fish habitat. The slide below just shows Chinook salmon spawning in a typical section of the upper Nottawasaga. Next slide, please. So why is this important? Well, if you look on the left photo identifies the high quality stream environment with old growth cedar, excellent shading, low banks, great root structure holding the banks together, and high quality water with lots of springs. So fantastic resource. But then on the right-hand side, you can see how this resource becomes degraded as you move downstream and northeast into the Simcoe lowlands. So this is a typical shot of an old pasture site where the vegetation has been pretty much removed. What vegetation there is has a very shallow root network, and the river's carving the sandy soil out under the roots and creating cave-ins and massive slumping on the banks. And underneath, you can see that this change occurs over pretty short geography. You can see that the the left-hand slide is typical of Village of Hockley. And by the time you get to Side Road 20 Agila, the river's already starting to look like the right-hand slide. Next slide, please. So how are we achieving this restoration? We're stabilizing stream banks, planting lots of trees along the river, and where required, working with landowners to put up fencing to keep cattle and other livestock out of the river. It's our stream bank stabilization approach, though, that really sets us apart. We take high banks and we flatten them right down to create flat shelves and floodplains so that we can get all the vegetation throwing roots down low below the level where the river is cutting. If the river can undermine the vegetation, it'll erode like crazy. But if you can get roots down below the level of the river, it stabilizes everything and provides fantastic habitat. Next slide, please. When you create floodplains as well, you not only improve the way the vegetation roots to stabilize the river, but creating a wide, flat shelf or floodplain is very much like taking your thumb off the end of the garden hose, where you can put your thumb over the garden hose and then blow the sand out of your little brother's sandbox, is like erosion. And as soon as you take your thumb off the garden hose, the flow of water slows down and no longer has the energy to move sand or sediment. So our floodplain construction does that as well. We found a really cool article coming out of Washington, D.C. in the United States called A Muddy Legacy, and the title page is shown on the right. And we found that although the American project working on the floodplain creation is better funded and has much better science, that in parallel, they've developed techniques that are extremely similar to what we're using throughout the watershed, and particularly in the upper Nottawasaga River. And some of their science suggests that not only are these floodplains great for bank stabilization and habitat, but they call them in this article their water quality superstars, where during spring runoff, a ton of nutrient and sediment gets left in the floodplain, particularly nutrients, where it gets tied up in the floodplain vegetation and is no longer available to grow algae in the river during the hot growing season. So floodplains do so many cool things, and they're also beneficial to local landowners to help them with their flooding situation. So we're hoping those flood control benefits may even get us a lot of project uptake with landowners who aren't that environmental. Next slide, please. So just to wrap up, a couple before and after shots. This is from Sheldon Creek on 2019, year 2 of the program. And you can see on the left, you have very shallow rooted vegetation, just invasive meadow grasses. And on the right-hand bank of the creek, you can see black shadows where the stream bank is being undermined and the sod is slumping and dropping into the creek. The lower slide shows the excavator at work. We're using heavy machinery to get the volume cranked up, but we're doing a very environmental approach. And then in the after shot on the right, you can see how the creek bank on the left has been lowered to create a floodplain shelf. And on the right, it's been not only lowered, but the excavators picked up huge clumps of red osier dogwood and actually inserted them in the new low restabilized banks. In the lower photo, you can even see where we pirated cedar trees out of a plantation on site and transplanted them right onto the banks of the newly restored stream habitat. Next slide, please. And then a quick overview of the 2020 work at the Breeden property, where we were very lucky to have some of our board members out. On the upper left, you can see a before shot of a bank with very shallow rooted grass. The river's undercutting it, and this material is slumping and dropping, and sediments loading in the river every year. On the right-hand photo, same site, you can see the yellow area. The yellow arrow is the same tree. It's just been cut off to keep it falling and ripping out the bank. But in this case, we've lowered the bank height, moved new grassy sod back in to restabilize the site, and placed a ton of woody habitat structures on the right-hand bank, not only improve habitat for fish and filter feeding insects, which clean the water, but also to stop the erosion. And then on the bottom photo, you get a panoramic shot of what the new reconstructed stable floodplains look like. Last slide, please. So progress on this project, we excluded cattle from a little under a kilometer of river in 2018. We did 320 meters of bank stabilization and started floodplain work on the Nottawasaga and Sheldon in year 2, 2019. And then 2020, we completed 350 plus meters of bank stabilization and almost 3,000 meters squared of floodplain work. The cost for the 2020 work was $50,000. Mostly excavator time with a little bit for materials and some staff time. And I apologize, there's one more slide. Next slide, please. So very last slide, how did we fund this? Well, we've got funding from Fisheries and Oceans Canada because there is a species at risk in this section of the river. It's a non-parasitic lamprey called Northern Brook lamprey, a native species. We got money from Patagonia, which is a really cool outdoor outfitter and clothing company. And also through their Tides Foundation associated with Patagonia. Of course, our municipality, Agiltas, is a partner. Cabela's, another outdoor outfitter, provided funding. Electra, a utilities company out of Alliston. And looking at the other funding sources, Somerville Nursery gives us a lot of beautiful trees that are donated. But last but not least, by working with Nottawasaga Futures in Alliston, a local economic development corporation and a partner, they have a South Simcoe Streams Committee program. Working through them, they submitted and were successful at getting over $500,000 of Trillium funding for this year, and also for the next, that'll also extend over the next 2 years. So the future of this project looks pretty bright thanks to that partnership. So once again, the key thing is for a little bit of leverage, we get some pretty huge leveraging working with funding partners and project partners. Thank you very much.